Hey y'all, and welcome back to a new video. Today we're going to be looking at a chess game that I played recently, which shows how easily a 2250 level player can lose a very simple position. I was almost able to make a draw this game, but unfortunately I was not able. Let's get into the chess. My opponent goes d4, I play knight to f6, knight to f3, and I play the move d5. Of course, knight to f6 is looking for a Nimso Indian, a position that I play pretty frequently, but whatever, doesn't matter. And after knight to f3, I simply return back to simple d4, d5. c4, c6, the Slav defense, something I enjoy a lot actually. I feel like it gives black a decent amount of play. e3, bishop to g4, knight bd2, e6, a3, and we kind of exit the opening after developing all our pieces in around this position with the move bishop to d6. a3, of course, by the way, a3 is a very decent move. The point is to stop any of this. He was worried that his knight would get pinned, and then he would have some issues defending both of these with the move knight to e5. a3 is a very, very reasonable and logical move. I'm not sure it's the perfect move, but it has ideas behind it. Anyway, bishop d6, bishop to e2, castles, and here is around the point we get out of the opening. Here's around the point we get out of the opening, where my opponent decides to play the move b3. And now we have a game on our hands. b3 is of course not a move that it's not a move of theory. It's not a very good move because it doesn't really do anything. It doesn't look like a theory move to me, at least. And the point of this move is pretty clear. His idea is that he wants to get the bishop out like this. He doesn't believe that the bishop has a future on this diagonal, so he wants to do something like this and then maybe expand in the center and try to open it up with this pawn, which is an idea. Also, the bishop on the b2 square will be defending the e5 square, which is one of black's main ideas in this position, is to play e5, so this is not the worst move in the world. In any case, I don't really think too much of it. Knight bd7, bishop to b2, and rook to e8. And now we get some good play. My opponent castles. Sorry, he does not play h3. He plays h3 on the next move. And I decide to, in this position, really take stock of the position. I want to play knight to e4. I want to play knight to e4, but the point is, okay, he takes, I take, he goes knight d2, I take, he takes, we trade a bunch of pieces. Let's put that on the board. Knight e4, takes, here. Here, this pawn is a little weak. I can play f5 to defend it, but in all honesty, these aren't the positions that I really enjoy. It feels like my opponent is having a lot of fun here, and of course I know that the position is reasonable. The level, I'm assuming that is probably around equality, maybe a plus 0.4 advantage to either side, but these pawns just don't look very stable. Like f3 is always a possibility, and this pawn is always super weak, and I've kind of given up on my main plan of playing e5, so I didn't enjoy this. And the other idea that I have is, of course, with the main idea of the opening, I need to play e5 immediately. I really want to play e5, but the point is, the reason why this is difficult at this point is because what ends up happening is that my opponent can take either pawn. I was more worried about him taking on d5, and now I would recapture. My opponent would take. I would take, we get a bunch of trades. Sorry. Here I have to take on e2 first. Here, bishop e5, take, and at the end of the day I get an isolated pawn, so I don't want to do that, right? So what I have to do first, before I do any of that, is I have to try to prepare the move better, which means that I have to figure out a plan. For one, I could take here first. The reason I don't like this is knight c4 hits my bishop immediately, defends the square, he's going to go here next. I don't like that. Okay, so what do? We do the move that I decided to play in the game. I play the move bishop to h5, which is a very reasonable move. The point is that he wants to play h3 himself. In any case, he probably wants to do that, and I want my bishop on this diagonal anyway. Yes, I probably should have played bishop to f5 first. I don't really know why I didn't do this, but whatever. I didn't talk to myself after the game. Bishop to h5 is what I played, and he decides to play h3 anyway. I don't really understand. I don't get this move. It seems a little stupid, and it seems like it's just, okay, a random move. He just wasted a tempo, right? So I play bishop g6. And my bishop is strong here. It covers the whole diagonal, and eventually I'm going to play e5. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to play e5 eventually, or I don't know, something else is going to happen. Rook to c1 played. I decided that now is the time to play e5. I'm not too sure why I did. I thought maybe my bishop was my bishop being improved on this square makes it a lot easier for me to play e5. I probably should have been a little more patient playing knight e4, which is another point of putting the bishop on g6, but whatever. I didn't do this. It's fine. Again, it's slight inaccuracies like this that allow people to lose games, and the more these pile up, the worse it gets. Anyway, e5 on the board. My opponent plays correctly. Maybe he plays okay, actually. He should have taken on d5 first, but instead he takes here. Knight takes e5, knight takes e5, bishop e5, bishop e5, rook e5, and knight to f3. And now, by the way, he can't do this. This is just losing because of this. He would like to do that to make my pawn isolated, but in this position it's bad. And also after knight to f3 and my rook goes back, I decide to play the rook to e7 because maybe my rook can double up on the e file at some point. If he wants to do this, I can always take either way, either queen takes or knight takes. I don't want to take with the pawn because this pawn is perpetually weak, which is nice. It's nice that I actually know what I'm doing at some points. But in any case, rook to e7. My opponent goes with the move b4, which is a little insane. I didn't really understand this move. I thought maybe the point was that he wants to take, and then play b5, which kind of makes sense, but also it's a very strange move. But the engine completely agrees with b4. Incredible, in all honesty. I don't really understand, but whatever. Sometimes people don't understand things. I'm not perfect, and I'm never going to be perfect. So anyway, b4 on the board. I decided to take on c4 now because I kind of destabilize the position. I'm opening up this, and I'm always going to be first to the d file since his queen is on it. And of course, if he trades, that'd be perfect for me. I get a double up. My rooks are pretty great. I'd be happy to trade all the rooks. And after bishop takes c4, I can easily play a move like rook d7 or queen c7, whatever I decide to do. I can play queen c7 with the idea of rook d8 and then doubling up with the two rooks, or I can do what I did in the game, which is just play rook d7 immediately, which is slightly better. And the point is I hit the queen, and I want to eventually get onto the second rank. After the knight moves and trades for the bishop, I'm going to get my rook into the second rank first, and that means that I'm going to be better. My opponent is not going to go down without a fight. My opponent goes queen to b3, a very, very nice move, making it very difficult for me to get my rook into the game. My rook still has no entryway here since the knight defends everything and the bishop defends everything. And he has some nagging pressure here. He has this idea knight to e5, which is, in all honesty, a very dangerous move. If I get like a little weirded out, I mean, it's a pretty weird move, and if I don't respond to it accurately, I can get into some problems, and it's terrifying. So I decided, okay, what's the problem piece? This is the bishop, right? I don't like that the bishop's in the way. I don't think it's nice. I think it's a bit of a mean piece. I don't like pieces that are mean. And I decide to, instead of doing something normal like queen e7 or queen c7 and like just saying, okay, well, I'm gonna double up with my rooks anyway, there's no real difference now, I decide to trade the bishop. And this is a moment where even a player like as myself, I know I'm not that good, but many of you seem to think I am, messes up, and I play the move bishop to d3. Simply put, I want to trade the bishops. I really hate that the bishop's here. I would love it if he took on d3. I take here, my rook gets active, everything is perfect. I thought, okay, well, I'm attacking the rook, life is good. You take here, I just take, my bishop is doing fine, and the rook is still hanging, and I'm doing great. I'm doing perfect. Actually, I just really like my position. After the bishop trade, I'd be feeling like black is actually slightly better here. Unfortunately, that completely loses to bishop takes f7, which is just very, very annoying, and it's a game over. Actually, the point is king to f8 actually just loses on the spot due to a move like knight to g5, or he can even just go rook here, and it's over. Actually, I'm not too sure why it's over. Why can't I just play like, I don't know, bishop e2? Rook d7, of course, here, and bishop to e6, and I'm just down a pawn, I guess. I'm just down a pawn, and I have zero compensation. Actually, my king is under a bit of a large attack. which is a little unfortunate. And of course, after captures, which I just stopped calculating at because this is pretty obvious, this just wins. And the reason why I didn't see this is because the queen still pins the rook, and that's disappointing. Of course, if I would be able to go here, I'd be like just up a bishop, and that would be bad. Fortunately, or fortunately, whoever you're rooting for, my opponent doesn't see that. Bishop takes d3. And now, I'd argue black is better. Rook takes d3. And queen to b2 is a very interesting move. The point is that he kind of... I'm not too sure why he put the queen on b2. Maybe he just wants to have more defense over this, but I thought that the move rook to c3 made a lot more sense here. I guess maybe my idea in the game was just to put the rook back on d5 and argue that my pieces are very good. My knight's coming here. This rook is actually a target. But it's, I don't know. I feel like this is just more accurate than queen to b2 because queen to b2 doesn't really do anything. And this just gives me free reign to do whatever I want. So, of course, I play a very natural move, knight to e4. Putting knight into the center. I want to trade off this knight. So this is my next move. If he allows me to do this, I'm just going to be a lot better because let's say here... that's the move he played, actually. That's kind of crazy. The entire sequence all happened in the game. Okay, I tried to make a random move. I don't know, what could be a random move? Whatever. Anyway, my point is, I want to trade off the knight. I want to get to the second rank. Rooks on the second and seventh rank are always, are normally pretty good. That's what I want to do. It's just common knowledge. But my opponent goes a4. The point is he wants to play b5. He wants to start a little minority attack over here. Of course, a term that's not really that well received nowadays because, right? So, but what he wants to do, he wants to break up my pawn structure. These pawns are pretty strong, but if he's able to trade off some of them for this, maybe make one of these a little isolated, without its friends, the pawn is going to be a lot weaker. So, yeah. But anyways, I decided to go with my plan because he didn't stop me, so I played knight to d2. My opponent has to take because I'm threatening his rook, and if my opponent moves this, this is just really, really good for me. I double his pawns. I'm able to play rook d2 at the very least, but at the very most, I can play something like queen d5, bring the other rook into the game. There's checks, ideas, the pawn is hanging. I'm just much, much better. In any case, knight takes e2, rook takes d2, and queen to e5 is the move chosen, which is a very, very annoying move. Simply getting very, very active in the center, and actually it's very difficult to kick my opponent's queen out. Since I want my rook to be on this square, I can't really bring it back very easily, since that would be kind of a concession to my opponent. And if I trade the queens, like if I go queen d5 or something, queen d5, this is just a draw. Just a draw. There's actually no chess to be played here. I'm sure my opponent knows how to draw this. This is a very bland and boring position, and I didn't want to do that. So I play queen to b6, which made sense. I'm putting pressure on the pawns, and I'm trying to say, okay, well, I don't want you to really get a free hand at playing b5, so we're going to make it cost something. And also, there are these black rank problems, by the way. Just mentioning something to keep count of for later in the game. b5. I decide here to play rook a to d8 first, arguing that I actually want him to take me, him or her. And the point is, I'm going to take back with the pawn. And actually, this pawn is a passer. And I'm like, okay, well, you give me a passed pawn. I think it's worth having the isolated pawns. And that's pretty good. The other idea is taking here. The reason why I didn't like this, the reason why I simply didn't like this, is I didn't like that my opponent could probably just take with the queen, trade. This is a draw, but actually, I think my opponent is fighting for a win. Because he has ways to, like, trade off this pawn for, like, serious issues. Like my pawn structure gets broken. I still have these back rank issues. I don't know. If I play b6 here, he gets onto the seventh rank. This pawn is weak. This pawn is weak as well. I can't push this very easily. Because if I go something like a5, this is just a free pawn. There's always mate, right? So I decided, okay, I play rook d8. Takes. I get a free pawn. Well, I get a passed pawn, and I say thank you very much. My opponent goes rook b1. Queen is nearly trapped, but I have one move, So I go with the one move, queen a6. There's nothing else to be done. Rook to b4. h6 is the move chosen because I still am a little bit worried about back rank problems. And there's also ideas of this, which can come very, very suddenly, and I have to be prepared for them. I'll probably play something like g6 there, and it's a little issue, but I don't really have these dark sword weaknesses since my king always has the f7 square, and in all honesty, I'm doing fine. This position is probably equal. Rook to f4 though. I play rook to d1, trying to trade off the rooks. Of course, I was always looking at some sacrifices, but this never works. The king is always able to run away, which is really annoying, but whatever. Rook to d1. My opponent trades, king to h2. And now, for the point you've all been waiting for, I basically lose the game. I have one move here that actually lets me live, and that is the only move, queen to c8, stopping checks. This pawn is defended now. I'm doing fine. My opponent has no real checkmate ideas. If my opponent goes here, g6 is always fine. He doesn't really have anything else. And my rook is going to come back or harass his king or something. And it's a draw, but white is pushing. I decided force matters, and I play f6. And now I'm losing. Now I'm losing pretty easily, actually. Very disappointing that I played this move. I thought this was actually very smart, because the point is that, okay, I'm hitting his queen, of course, and let's say my opponent moves back. I'm just going to play, I don't even know, like c5. I'm going to defend this. All these squares are nicely defended, and I'm doing pretty well, but yeah, that's not what happens. He just has queen to e8. King to h7, and yeah, he wins pretty quickly here. Queen e4, king to h8. I thought this was the only move. The point is that I didn't want any like diagonal checks here. I don't want to give him another option. Also, I don't want him to put pressure on my king like this. I didn't like that at all. I thought that was very dangerous. I go king to h8. He goes queen to a8, king to h7. My opponent is unable to find the correct way to win the game. Is very unfortunate for him. The correct way to win the game is to put the queen on the 7th rank. My opponent has to go queen f7 or queen e7. Queen f7 is better since it's closer to the king and it stops some ideas like this. And now he's going to come here. I have to play something like queen to c8, rook to g4, queen to g8, and queen takes h7, and I'm losing. And if I do it the other way, if I go rook d8, rook g4 doesn't work now, but at the very least he can win a pawn like this and the king is pinned. So yeah, it's not looking good, but my opponent doesn't find the move. He finds the idea, but not the move, and he plays it wrong. He goes rook to g4, and I'm like, okay, you don't want to draw. You could have had a draw. You could have made 3-move repetition. If you want 3-move repetition, you can absolutely make 3-move repetition. And I decided to keep playing. I go queen to b7. Of course, I have to. He's threatening queen to f7. He's also threatening this and a checkmate. For instance, random move, check here and mate is the idea. So I go queen to b7. Now I defend the pawn. He doesn't have that. He can't get onto the 7th rank. And he can still make a draw if he wants. I didn't stop him from making a draw. If he wants a draw, he can have a draw. You know why he can have a draw? Because I'm much worse here if he doesn't have a draw. He can have a draw, queen g6, king h8, but he doesn't go for a draw. Instead, lets me do what I want. Rook to e4 on the board. Okay, still a draw, but whatever, fine. He's trying to checkmate me. Oh no, I'm gonna blunder checkmate. I'm not gonna blunder checkmate. I'm not stupid. I go queen to c7 check first, just a little intermezzo move to get my queen closer into the action, and then I bring my rook down to d8, and I stop any of this garbage. Okay, you can trade the rooks if you want. Make a draw. Make a draw here, man. Just go ahead. Go ahead and make a draw. I'm not gonna fault you for it. I'm not gonna play g6. That's a little bit too bad. Like it's a little bit too passive to play g6. Of course, the game can go on, but I don't really enjoy g6 just because like I'm not going for anything. My king is just like kind of weak here. He's always gonna have ideas. I can never like move my queen out of the way to save myself because he's gonna win a pawn. This pawn is weak. This pawn is weak. It's not good to do that. So I should probably go for a draw here. Okay, well, he doesn't do that though. He goes rook to e6, which is also a good move. His point is that he just wants to get a little closer. He wants to start pressuring some pawns here. His main idea immediately is that he wants this. Like this is a bit of a problem. If I go here, he can't take it right away. But in the future, like if my queen moves away from the defense of the rook, queen b7, now rook takes f6 works, and I lose the rook. This is the point, right? And I would be losing. I'm down 2 pawns, which is not good. Okay, so I don't do that. I defend my pawn. I go rook to f8, defending my pawn. Queen to c2, rook to c8. He can have a draw if he wants. Completely fine with a draw. I do not care if I just want to draw. That's all it is. If I can get a draw, I'd be happy because I was worse a lot in this game. And also I have a minute and a half on the clock versus 5 minutes, which is just an insane time difference. Anyway, queen to c5 played. I decided to keep going for a draw. Queen to b6 on the board. If he trades, this actually might even be like decenter for me because this pawn is a little strong. You can't push with this pawn. I don't know. It's still probably a draw since it's a rook endgame, and rook endgames are notoriously drawish, but you never know. Queen to f5 though. He doesn't want to draw. I go queen to c7 because I want to draw. Queen to c5. We start repeating moves. It's the only thing I can do. Queen to d6. And I make another mistake. Queen to c7. And I'm losing. And I'm losing the game. This is how it is because, I mean, the video is, of course, how you can lose at the 2250 level. This is how I lose. My opponent has a rook to e8. A move that I saw, by the way. I saw this move. Originally, rook to e8 check. Point is I can't take because I lose my queen. And I thought, okay, king h7, queen to d3. I didn't really think too much of it. I thought this position wasn't the end of the world. Like, I played g6. But it's the end of the world. It's definitely the end of the world. My opponent can just play rook e6, kind of harass me forever. Let's say I play something like king to g7. Now there's rook to d6, and I can't stop this. And it's just a million different problems. And I probably wouldn't be able to survive that with 1 minute on the clock. Luckily for me, he misses it. Queen to d3. And now I'm like, okay. You still don't want to draw. You aren't allowing me to threaten a queen trade with queen b6 anymore. What's the only thing I have left? I guess I can push my pawn. I go c5. Why not? I go c5. It's 4 squares away from queen. It's never going to become a queen because my opponent's always going to have a draw. He's just always going to have a draw. This position is basically always a draw, and I don't have enough time to really exploit what my opponent's inaccuracies are. Queen to e4 played. Pretty decent move. He might want to trade the rooks and make a draw if he wants. I go c4. Why not? I keep pushing. He doesn't have any real threats. Rook to e7 played. I go queen to c6, offering a queen trade again. Point is that now takes, and like this, I'm winning because c3, I'm a lot faster than him. So now it's actually a bit of a problem, and he can't trade with me because I think he's losing. Like, let's say, do anything, you lose, right? You cannot stop the pawn. Anyway, so he doesn't trade with me. Queen to g6 played, threatening a mate. I have to go rook to g8, stopping it. Only move on the board. This does not deserve a great move. This is a very not great move. A very reasonable move. Queen to f7. And okay, he gave me a pawn. Queen takes a4. Queen takes a4. He's giving up. He's taking this pawn for this pawn, which is completely reasonable. He wants trades, I guess. Again, it's still a draw. Whenever he wants, he can have a draw. I do not care. Rook to c7 on the board, trying to go after this pawn. And I play queen to b3 because I'm now attacking this, and I'm doing pretty well. And if he takes this pawn, I take on e3. He cannot take here because my queen will defend the pawn. And I still have winning chances technically, but it's still just a draw. So life is pretty good. Queen d6 though, play a5 on the board. I spent 9 seconds on that move. A little bit of a crazy time spend, especially with less than a minute on the clock and still so much of the game to be played. Of course, if he doesn't want to draw. Queen takes e4. I take on e3. I'm up a pawn now. This pawn is no longer hanging, so I'm up a pawn. Rook to c5, rook to a8, defending the pawn. And he decides to trade rooks with me and go for a draw, with, of course, the move queen to f5 or queen to c2. He goes with queen to c2, which is fine. Of course, I'm going to take the draw. I'm going to play this. I'm going to go for the draw. He can go whatever he wants. Here, here. He goes here. I go queen to g8 now. And I decide not to have a draw. I don't need a draw anymore. You got your draw. No, I don't really want to draw. Queen takes a5. Queen takes f4. I'm up a pawn. 40 seconds, but I'm up a pawn. Sure, I'm down a minute and a half on the clock, but I'm up a pawn at 40 seconds. Well, you know, I'm still going to lose this game since, of course, the title is how to lose at 2250 level, but whatever, right? King to h1, king to f7. I'm up a pawn here. I'm going to run up. It's a queen in game, so it's probably still a draw, but you never know. I'm going to run up. There could be some issues. I don't really know. Queen to d5, king to g6, queen to d3, f5. 32 seconds on the clock. There's very little chance that I'm able to survive this with that little amount of time. My opponent goes queen to a6. I go king to g5, which is very aggressive. I'm trying to get here and maybe have some ideas. Also, he doesn't have any checks anymore, which is my point. My opponent goes queen d3, g6, check here, check, queen here. Now he cannot take because this is a losing king and pawn endgame. In many king pawn endgames, the person with more pawns just wins. There's really nothing to it. So instead, he doesn't do that. He goes queen e2. I play the move g5. He goes with this move. I play the move h5. My opponent takes on f5. I've lost my pawn. And I realize here that I can make progress with the move g5, g4. I can progress with the move g4. I threatened to do this. There might be something. I know it's still a draw, and I'm still down on time. I'm down only 10 seconds now, which is very nice. He spent a lot of time, but, you know, it's pretty good stuff. And, yeah, I can play g5. That'd be a nice way to win the game, right? That'd be a decent way to push. No, I'm messing. I didn't play g5 here. I didn't play. I didn't play g5. No. I'm not gonna play. I'm not gonna play g5. Anyway, I decide here. There's no more progress to be done, and I make the draw. Queen e1, king h2, queen g3, king g1, queen e1, and he says no draw. Okay. Well, I say draw. Takes. I play g4. I know at this point I have 15 seconds on the clock. There's nothing really to be done. It's just 2 pawns versus 2 pawns. Even if my opponent lets me do whatever I want, he can go here. It's still just a draw because this is the corner. You just pre-move this and this and this for the rest of the game. Anyway, my opponent decides to take. I take with the king. Going up here, I guess. I don't really understand. King f2, king f4, check here. King g2, I play h4, and then we're going to make a draw with this move, and life is going to be good. We waste king h2 instead. And yeah, it's still a draw. But if we look at the time, I've been playing very fast this game. I am now up on time. If we look back here, 5 minutes to 1.5. And if we look back at where we are, I'm at 5 seconds on the clock, which is very funny. And it's still a draw. h takes g4, h takes g3, king g2, king to f4. And the way to make a draw here is king g1, here. And I have to either run away from the pawn or stalemate with the move king to g6. But right, someone has to lose this game. This is how to lose at the 2250 level. It was never going to be me. King to f1 is the move played. King to f3, king g1, g2, king h2, 2 seconds on the clock, king f2, king h3, g1 queen, king h4. And after queen g6, 1 move before checkmate, my opponent runs out of time. Of course, the next move would be this, and then there would be a checkmate on the board, or checkmate here. And that is how to lose at chess at the 2250 level. Which is a very funny game. I was losing the entire time, or it was a draw. It was just a draw for the entire time. 80 moves. This is an 80 move long game. 80 move long game where my opponent ends up blundering at the last second. He could have just played king g1, which is not hard. He obviously knows the technique at this level. He's not a bad player, but this is just hilarious. By the way, even king e3, king h1 is still a draw because king f2 is a stalemate, which is kind of funny. But yeah, this is just yeah. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys found this entertaining, instructive, all the above. If you did, remember to like, subscribe, do all the things YouTubers tell you to do. And yeah, that's it. Good evening and good night.